Really appreciate everyone's presence this morning, and we are glad to have those of you who are with us online this morning worshiping together. I want to remind you, this morning we begin our Bible classes immediately after our worship service. There'll be a 5-minute gap in between worship and class, and during that time, the children ages 3 through 5th grade will go back into the fellowship hall. Our young people, 6th grade through high school, will be joining Barrett, and I believe he's going to have you pick up a chair and go outside this morning and sit outside. The adults will remain in here, and we'll have our class in here talking about being living letters. We'll discuss more of that later. Now, as soon as amen is said at the end of the service, you're going to see Steve come up here, and Steve's going to turn his back to you, and he's going to be talking to that camera right there. During the interim period, he'll be sharing with the folks who are joining us online exactly what's going to be going on. So don't be distracted by that. Go ahead and do what you need to do. He's going to be taking care of what he needs to take care of. And then we will begin classes again 5 minutes after we conclude our worship time together. I want to mention, time flies. It flies. It was 15 years ago last Sunday that we had our first Sunday here, 2005. And we begin our 16th year now here. And I just want to express on behalf of Carol and myself our grateful appreciation for blessing us with 15 wonderful years. Been good. And we look forward to continuing to work with you here. The last year and a half has been tough, hasn't it? A lot of stuff that's gone on between the flood and COVID and all that. But I really believe if there was ever a church ready to respond to this and come out of this on the other side in a healthy way, it's this one. And I look forward to the opportunities that are going to be presented to us in days to come. We've been talking out of the book of James on wisdom from above. And this morning, I want us to talk about what you believe is reflected in what you do. I think that is an incredibly important point that we really need to buy into. It's going to be a little different this morning because I want us to look at one verse. And that's James chapter 4, verse 17. That's going to be the basis of our whole lesson this morning. And there's a couple of reasons why I want to do that. One, it teaches some incredibly impactful truths that I think we need to grab hold of. Second, I think that this verse, in many ways, has been misused to put a lot of good people on a guilt trip. And I think that's a misuse of this particular verse, and I want to explain why when we get there, because you'll hear a lot of discussion about sins of omission as well as commission, and generally when somebody talks about the sin of omission, they'll run to James 4:17. You knew to do good and you didn't do it, okay? And I want us to look at the principle that underlies that because I think it's really important. Now, I put up for you, I usually use the new, the English translation, but this morning I put the New American Standard Version translation up there because I just like it better. I think it more accurately reflects what is actually said. Therefore, to one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it's sin. Now, below that, for a reason, I have put what I'm going to call the Rouse literal translation, because there's a couple of things I want to point out to you about how this verse reads in the Greek. One of the problems you always run into when you translate from one language to another is you can never reproduce word order. It's difficult to get the depth of what's being said in one language brought over exactly into another. Excuse me. I'm not saying that translations can't be accurate. They are. I'm just saying it's an ongoing challenge. And there's a couple of things I want to point out to you about this verse and what it literally says before we start to take it apart, unpack it, and look at some of what it says to us. Literally, what this says is, the one knowing, a participle, rooted in oida, which is to know. The one knowing, therefore, good, kalon, we'll talk about that in a little bit, to do, and not doing it, hamartia, sin, to him it is. Now, sounds kind of awkward, doesn't it? But the Greek has the advantage that English doesn't of taking important words and putting them in important places. Because of the way English is constructed, we can't always do that, but in Greek they can. And so it's interesting to me that James makes this statement starting off with knowing. Okay, it's present tense. You know, knowing participle. There's something that you know. You know good. And then he goes to, you know good to do, and another participle, but you're not doing it. So you know, but you don't do. Okay? You're knowing and not doing. And it's not accidental that he structured that way, because those two concepts are incredibly important. Now, you know, therefore, what is good. You know the right thing to do, but you're not always doing it. That's sin when that happens. Now, why does he say that here? Okay, I think that's the first question we need to ask. In the structure in the Greek, he starts off with that participle, knowing, but immediately after that he puts the word that we would translate something like so or therefore. And so he's pointing back, as we've talked about, a therefore indicates what? What went before. To give you a wherefore. Now, what's gone before? Well, as we talked about last week, in the immediate context, he's talking about, listen, get off your high horse in this thinking that you run your life. You don't run your life. Okay? You don't. It's evil if you think you do. God is in control. If the Lord wills, needs to be at the core of how you live your life. Now, does that mean that to some degree you relinquish control? Absolutely. Does it also mean there's incredible peace to be found in that? Absolutely. Like we talked about, and I mean this sincerely, I'm not sweating the coming election. Whoever gets elected, God intends for him to be elected. It's going to work. That's how it's going to be. I trust God more than I trust my judgment. He's in control. He runs things. He'll work it out. He'll make it okay. That's what he does. Now, in the larger context of this, though, and I think that this needs to be read not in that immediate context, but in the larger context, because I think what this is a summary statement. This is kind of summing up the basic point that he's made through the letter. Now, think about it. In chapter 1, he has said, oh, you claim to be religious? What is religion? It is to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction and what? Keep oneself unspotted from the world. Right? 1:26 and 27. What's he saying? Show me your religion. Live it. Do it. Okay? Claiming to be religious, but not practicing your religion is meaningless. Show me. Chapter 2. Oh, you claim to have faith. What's he say? Chapter 2:18. Show me your faith without your works. What? I'll show you my faith by my works. Chapter 3. He's talking about wisdom there. And what's he say in chapter 3, verses 17 and 18? Wisdom is going to be demonstrated in your life. Wisdom is going to be demonstrated by the fruit you produce. Wisdom is going to be demonstrated by what you do. And so all the way through this letter, the same point is being made again and again and again. It's not just enough to know what's right. You have to do it. You've got to live it. Okay? That's exactly what he's summing up here. Now, Knowing, therefore, good. There are several different words in the Greek for good: agathos, kalos, and here kalon. Kalon, when you look at how it's used in the New Testament, in Romans 7, Paul will talk about doing good, wanting to do good things. He uses this word. The Apostle Paul in Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 will say, let us do good, kalon, unto all men, especially unto those who are the household of faith. It makes reference not only to a moral excellence, but it goes past that to doing good in general, okay? To making a difference in the lives of others. That is what is good. Now here's the problem, and it's a big one, brothers and sisters, and an increasingly challenging one. You say, well, you know, I know what good is, and bless your hearts, I think you do. I do. I think you know what's good according to God because you study His Word. But what we're running into increasingly in our world and in our culture in this country is we have people who literally don't know what good is. They don't know what God's good is. They know what evil's good is, but not God's. Remember, James draws a distinction in chapter 3 between wisdom from the world and wisdom from above. Wisdom, which he says is from beneath, which is demonic in nature, and wisdom from above. Wow, I think it breaks my heart, but man, I see that being illustrated every day in what's going on now. You see, we've got hundreds of millions of people out there who know that it is good to strap explosives around your waist, walk into the middle of a crowd and blow yourself up, killing everybody around you. That's good. That'll get you to paradise. Now, I absolutely disagree with that. I think that's a devil's version of good, but the fact of the matter is there's a ton of people who believe that's good. Increasingly in this country, we've got a lot of people who believe it's good. I've listened to them defend burning and looting and rioting. That's good. It's necessary to bring about change. It's good. I don't know. I heard this morning somebody, I don't know that they've arrested this individual yet or not, walked up to a car in L.A. with two deputies in that car and sought to assassinate both of them, shot them both. When I left, they were in critical condition. A crowd goes to the emergency room of the hospital where this is a man and a woman have been taken and stand in front of the emergency room. You know what they're chanting? We hope they die. We hope they die. Now, in their minds, that's good. I don't see anything good about it, do you? But honestly, to them, that's good. And that's how twisted good has become. How misdefined and ill-defined good has become. I'm telling you, there's a difference in this world between good and good. And we need to know the difference. Our children need to know the difference. People need to be taught the difference. There's a wisdom that is from above that teaches a good. And there's a wisdom from beneath that teaches a good that is the exact opposite of that. When God talks about kalon, when God talks about good, He talks about Matthew 25, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, giving someone who's thirsty drink water. He tells a story in Luke 10 of the Good Samaritan who stops and aids someone who's been attacked and left half dead to care for that person. That is kalon. That is good. And the world desperately needs to be exposed to this. Desperately needs to understand That good is not hatred. Good is not destruction. Good is not rebellion. Good is not revenge. Good is not envy. That's not good. That's what tears things up. It's not good. And it's being held up as good. And it's being defended as good, and it's not good. And so we need to know what's good. We need to teach what's good. People need to hear what's good. You owe it to your kids to teach them what's good, because the world's going to try to tell them something different, believe me. And we need to embrace what is good and hold what is good, and in particular, live what's good. That's one of the reasons why I'm going to be spending time over the next several weeks in class talking about living letters. Because it is so important that we not just teach what we believe and what's right, but that we live it so that others can see it. Because those living letters are incredibly important. Knowing what is right is not the same as doing what is right. Understand that? Because a lot of people are walking around going, well, I know what's right. Fine. Are you doing what is right? That's James' point, isn't it? Knowing good to do, but not doing it, is misguided. It literally, hamartia, it is missing the mark. Because that's literally what hamartia means. It means to miss the mark. If you know what's good but you're not doing it, you miss the mark. Now, I think here he really is addressing, and this is important, a general tenor of life. How you live your life every day. Because of the language he uses, the place where he puts these words, participles that he uses here, the present tense that he uses. Knowing what is good to do, do it. Okay? That's his point. Do it. Now, we live in a day and age where I think we are overwhelmed, and I mean that sincerely, overwhelmed with opportunities to do good. And in the process of that, I think a lot of times people with a good conscience, people who want to do what's right, beat themselves up. Because they're not doing everything that could be done that is good. And I want to talk about this for a second. Here are some of the opportunities to do good at the Fort Gibson Church of Christ. Okay? This is Fort Gibson Church of Christ, opportunities to do good. You can support missions. We take up contributions for special mission efforts. We have sent aid to Christians in Honduras. We are supporting children. Several of you support children on a monthly basis in Honduras so that they can have clothes to wear to school and buy books and have some food. We, in a wonderful way, support Orphan Sunday every year and take care of children who truly are orphans. You have an opportunity to contribute to buy school supplies, to contribute to the church pantry, to send out Magi boxes, to go on mission trips, to support our prison ministries in the areas of teaching and Sunday services and correspondence courses, participate in World Bible School, to sponsor youth functions, to teach Bible classes. And I did not exhaust the list of all the opportunities to do good there are here. That's just some. How many of you are doing all that? It's too much, isn't it? You can't do it all. Now, collectively, there's a lot we can do. But individually, you pick out 3 or 4 of those things, and I guarantee you pretty well got your bucket full, don't you? And I haven't even begun to put up there, oh, well, what about contributing to ministries that feed the hungry. And there's multitudes of them that do that are excellent ministries. Carol and I send money every month to a ministry that goes and repairs cleft palates in children. It's a wonderful ministry, life-changing for children who are born with a cleft palate and grow up in an area where there are no doctors, no way to take care of that. It's great. There are opportunities to help purchase homes for families of veterans who lost their lives so that their family can have a house to live in. That's a great thing. It's a great thing. How many times, though, have I heard people, and maybe you felt it, I sure wrestled with it. I'm rushing to get somewhere, and some lady's pulled over by the side of the road, and I don't stop because I'm rushing to get where I'm going. And I beat myself up all the way there and the rest of the evening. Well, why didn't you stop and help? To him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. Or you pull up to a corner, and more, you got a panhandler on the corner. Maybe in this case, you've got a woman, and she's looking pitiful and holding a baby. And she has a sign that says, I need to buy milk for my baby. If you drive off and you don't hand her $1 or $5 or whatever, do you wrestle with yourself the rest of the evening? I'm supposed to be doing good, and here I didn't do good. Bottom line, brothers and sisters, I don't believe he's trying to put you on a guilt trip telling you, well, every time you miss an opportunity to do good, you sin. I think what he's saying, again, looking at the language of the verses, and let's go back to that. Knowing what is right, are you trying to do what's right? Because you see, I can't do everything that's right. I can't. You can't either. But can the general tenor of my life be to do what I can do? Yeah. Henry's focused on the prison ministry and reaching out to those women at Eddie Warrior and Just Done. Is that a good thing? Yeah. Do I need to go get on to Henry because Henry's not doing this or that or something else because Henry's all tied up in that? No. Is his focus on Cologne? Absolutely. Exactly where it needs to be. That's the general tenor of his life. And that is what James is saying. He's not trying to put you on a guilt trip, but he is trying to remind you in a very strong way. Listen, put your life where your mouth is. Okay? Live your religion. Live your faith. Show your wisdom. Demonstrate by how you live your life what you believe. Let your life be a living letter. Now that is incredibly powerful. Those letters are incredibly powerful. I really believe the power of God is seen as much as any way in the lives of other people. I really feel blessed. Every day, I get to rub shoulders with Janet and with Steve and with Barrett, Tanya, Paula. I get to be around living letters. I get to be around good people seeking to do good things. And that challenges me, and that ennobles me, and that blesses me as I see them seeking to serve and do and work and seek Cologne in their lives. What do people see in your life? Is your life a living letter? When they look at your life, do they see a general tenor of doing good, of living what you believe, I believe that's the challenge that he's presenting to us, and it's a beautiful challenge, and one that all of us need to seek to meet. If we can help you in any way in your walk this morning with the Lord, whether it's begin that walk as you confess that precious faith in Jesus Christ as the Son of God, you put on your Lord in baptism, you give your life to him. There's some things you've been struggling with, you need your prayers. We can encourage you, pray for you. If there's any way we can be of aid to you, please come while we stand and while we sing.